Welcome to one of the hardest lower body exercises known to man. I'm Neil Toussaint with TrickStrong RX, and today we're going to be going over the Nordic Hamstring curl. The Nordic Hamstring curl is amazing for strength, stability, etc., but mainly it is so good at helping us decelerate. So the hamstrings really assist us in decelerating motion, so landing, transitions, converting one direction to the other. The hamstrings are very important in doing that, and the Nordic Hamstring curl is going to make us so much better able to do that. It is an extremely difficult exercise, as we just said, but even its prerequisites will be so beneficial in building our braking ability. And it will help us not only with our hamstrings, but also with our hips, our core, and our knees as well. We know that the hamstrings are extremely important in preventing ACL injuries, for example. Even if you're not injured or not suffering from an injury, we tend to be more quad dominant. So we are going to be helping to reverse and correct those muscular imbalances in our lower body by training the hamstrings, the glutes, and everything in the posterior chain. So let's get to it. We're gonna go over progressions, regressions, how to do it, what the setup is, etc. Okay guys, so to set up the Nordic Hamstring curl, you're going to need something that's heavy enough to hold your body weight by your ankles. So that could be a partner, it could be a barbell set with enough weight on each side, but you have to make sure that the barbell is stable, of course, or whatever object you're using. You want to make it sure that it's stable. So if you're using a couch or something like that and it can move once you're doing the maximal effort, that becomes more dangerous. So you want to really make sure that whatever you're using, it is absolutely secure. What we're using, our setup, we use the studs of the wall, and we have a pipe set up. We have a piece of foam that's used for barbell sets when you're squatting, so that we obviously have padding for our feet. If you're going to go this route, know that you have risk to your home and to your health. It could come out of the wall, obviously. We're pretty confident in this setup, but you know, if you're gonna go this route, just make sure that it's very secure regardless of what you're doing. So you want a knee pad. You're going to sneak your feet under, and because we set it up for ourselves here, is the perfect distance for my feet. So now I'm here. So you need complete spinal rigidity, complete core, complete total body rigidity in order to do this efficiently. If I'm just starting out, I'm confident now in knowing how far I can push myself, what I can do with and without assistance, etc. But especially just starting out, or if you're approaching failure in your set, have your hands ready to catch you so that you can put them down. You don't want to like lock them out, obviously, but you want to have them there to absorb some of the shock in case you do give out. I'm gonna have my hands by my side. That helps me maintain more rigidity, but just know that if I were just doing it for the first time, I would have them here. So to start, squeezing my glutes, squeezing my hamstrings, squeezing my core, nice little chin tuck, and I'm just going to lower. So this exercise is very difficult. It is harder to maintain your hips. So at the bottom and coming up towards the top, you're going to maybe see a little bit of hip breakage. That is not our goal. We want to maintain this angle at all times. The only joint that you should be moving at here, ideally, is your knee. So if I'm going down, I'm only moving at my knee. Does that make sense? You can't answer me. So of course you can lay down at the bottom, but it is harder to decelerate yourself and to come back up than it is to lay down and then reverse the motion. So it's the same as a squat or a deadlift. For example, if you were to do a squat, we call it a box squat. If you do a squat and then land on the chair with your butt and rest and come back up, that's easier than if you were to do it by completely decelerating with your muscles and coming back up on your own. So take that as it is. It is completely fine to do it the other way first and then to progress this way if you're able to, because by converting that momentum, you're fully stopping and you're starting again. That's just going to be more benefit to the hamstrings, glutes, core, etc. It's just more work for us. So if you're unable to perform a Nordic, or if you're like me and want to rep it out more, want to do more than 1, 2, or 3 reps, then you're going to, this is my favorite form of assistance. It is a pull-up assist band. We set it up so that it's above us. If you're at a gym, etc., you could put it on a pull-up bar and then do the same thing. So from here, I'm going to just put it under my arms. I like it best here, really under my armpits, so it's nice and stable. And now that's just gonna help. Again, same thing, safety-wise. Make sure that the band has good integrity. It's not tearing, it's not ripping, it's strong enough for this. It should be a pull-up assist band that is rated for X amount of pounds, X amount of assistance that you would want. So this one I believe is 30 pounds of assistance. So from here, same as, so everything else is the same. Right now I'm already engaging my posterior chain, so my glutes, my hamstrings, etc. When I'm starting, this is a big tip, regardless if you're doing with assistance or not, I'm already doing a hamstring curl into the bar, I'm already engaging. That way when you go down, you have full stability, you're able to control it a little bit better. So right now I'm already pushing into the bar, squeezing my glutes, trying not to break at the hips, and going down and coming all the way back up. If you need help with this skill, you might notice yourself recruiting from other areas such as your head. You might be arching back. That is okay to an extent, but ideally we want to be a rigid board and use our hamstrings primarily to drive the movement. However, if you do see something like this, where you're coming down and coming back up like that, I'm okay with that. It's not like you're going like this, right? Don't do anything ridiculous with this. It is loaded. You want to have stability in the motion. You don't want to be bouncing or doing any quick motions like that. So the pull-up assist band is my favorite way to assist the Nordic because it's so consistent. You're focusing on the exercise. We take these other forms of assistance, which are perfect. They're great as well, but they are just going to challenge our core more and other aspects of the movement as well. But these, so one option is a slider. It could be a carpet slider, such as like a furniture slider. You could just put your hand on there and slide out and back in. Or you could use these. I have these wheel sliders. They're called Spider 360s. But whatever kind of roller, ab roller, or slider you have, it'll all work the same way. So you're going to start, and I like to get as much as little assistance as possible because I'm training to do as many Nordics without assistance as I can. So I'm gonna put the slider out here. If you wanted, you could start here and then do it from here, right? But you see that I'm not going through the hips as much. So I don't wanna break at the hips as much, so I'm gonna put my slider out a little bit further, right to where I need it. So now I can maintain most of the Nordic here and then slide out. And then same thing, when I come back up, I'm just gonna leave it there and finish the rep. Again, if we bring it too close, we break at the hips. So put it at a distance where you can manage it. Next thing we have is a ball. This is gonna be even harder to manage core-wise because we're basically doing an outstretched plank with not much stability. This gives us less stability. I mean, look at it, right? So I like to be on the side of the ball rather than the top because that doesn't challenge my shoulder mobility as much. So same thing, I'm gonna start it here. I'm gonna initiate the Nordic. And then just as I need that assistance, I'm going to walk it out. Come back up and then let go. You could even put something behind the ball so that it stays there a little bit. But something that the ball can roll over if you're worried about it rolling any which way. So I'm always doing as much as I possibly can and using this as minimally as I can. The last and my least favorite way to provide assistance with the Nordic is by doing a push-up. Not only are we potentially catching ourselves on arms once we give out, which is not a good situation potentially, like especially if you have any injuries in the upper extremity. It's just not as consistent. We don't get as much strength on the bottom. However, if you don't have any of this equipment, this is still a good option. You're still getting a lot of the benefit. So I'm gonna initiate, again, engaging, pushing my heels into the bar before I even start. And so I'm gonna descend, and then just as I need it, I'm gonna use minimal effort to push down and up. So I'm gonna go as far as I can and push back up. So I'm using fingertips because I don't need that much assistance, but if I did need more, obviously have my full hand out. So like this, and I could push up as much as I needed. Okay, so these assistance methods are great for the full Nordic, but if you're not there yet, you can just practice the lowering phase as well. So we call this eccentric Nordics, so it's just the lowering phase, and you're gonna have your hands out in order to catch yourself if you need it, but you're simply gonna lower as slowly and as controlled as you can each rep. And after that, you can just kind of push yourself back up and return to the starting position. So right here, I start to want to slow my descent. So I just put my hands there, and now I'm just going to walk myself back up. And then the rep begins again here. You're gonna get more strength benefits out of this than if you were to struggle your way up with just 1 or 2 reps when you're going all the way down, all the way back up. If you're not able to rep out the assisted methods, this is a great way to get a lot of reps and a lot of volume in and train those muscles eccentrically, train the form and the stability eccentrically before you worry about coming back up. Your goal should be trying to get lower and lower to the ground with control before putting your hands down, and then eventually being able to lower yourself completely without any hand assistance. So it is important with any exercise that we have time under tension. What that means is that if we're only able to do 1 or 2 reps of this, that's great. Maybe start the workout with that, but we still want to have some volume to work with in order to train our ability to do this exercise in the future. So we want to train the prerequisites as well with enough reps so that we can get benefit out of it. So if you're breaking at the hips when you're doing the eccentric curls, for example, that would look like this. Like if you're unable to keep it and you kind of go like this, or if you have an existing pre-existing hamstring injury, or if you're just not able to do that many reps of this exercise, I want you to start with the kneeling hinging. So if you guys remember from the deadlift video, the hip hinge is extremely important in a lot of lower body exercises to activate our posterior chain. So the hip hinge, just as a reminder, you're going to keep your core nice and tight, and you're only moving through your hip. Your body is not arching too much and it is not rounding too much either. It is staying perfectly neutral. And then from here, you're just hinging at the hips and coming back up. Just think about getting a nice hamstring stretch, keeping your legs straight and bending over without arching. So with this exercise I'm about to show you, it's going to look a little bit different because we're going to be kneeling, but it is exactly the same. It's the hip hinge that you came to know and love. So from down here, I'm going to kneel on this pad. Gauging core, glutes, hamstring. From here, I'm only going to be moving at the hip. Nice, slow, controlled, and back up. So as you can see, my butt has to sit back a little bit for this motion to work, and that is perfectly normal and fine and part of what you should be doing. So as you come down, that butt's gonna move back just a little bit, and you're going to drive it back up with your hamstrings and glutes. From the bottom of the rep, This is where you guys really engage those glutes and hamstrings to push you back up. I kind of imagine a bar between my shoulders and my knees, and I'm pushing my hips back to meet that bar, if that makes any sense. So I'm gonna come back and push through to touch that bar. If you're doing a single leg deadlift or a regular deadlift, for example, it's kind of the same thing. When you come up, you hit that bar. That's what I'm imagining here as well. It helps us get a little bit more hip drive in this motion. And the great thing about this variation too is you don't need as much weight behind you. So you could do this maybe with just a strap or somebody that can hold you for a second. So I like my hands on my hips for cue to keep the hip hinge, because sometimes if you don't have your hands on your hips, you can round at the lower back without realizing it. Just a nice cue. To progress this, you can use any form of assistance we used earlier. I'm going to use the roller or slider for this one, because I think it works best with this variation. But you're going to start with the kneeling hip hinge and you're gonna roll out. So hinge, 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 hinge. And now I'm still keeping that tension in my hamstrings as I roll out. I'm not just straightening out like this and using my arms. I'm hinging at the hips and then maintaining, still pulling up with my heel as I roll out. Very minimal weight on the slider here. This is about the hamstrings, so we're putting minimal weight through our hands here, and then we hinge back up as normal. So one last prerequisite to help us with our eccentric hamstring control, as well as our core stability, is the slider bridge. So we can use a slider, ab roller, or I'm going to show you a physio ball variation as well, which is a little bit harder. But we're going to lay on our back. My heels are in the sliders. And I'm going to bridge up. And I'm only moving at the knees again. So I really want to elevate, and it's hard because when you come out, your hip's going to want to drop. Really try to fight that as much as you can. So I'm sliding out, sliding back in, maintaining that position with the core. You can make this a little bit harder with a physio ball. The ball is going to be a lot higher than the sliders, so not only do I have to hold the bridge in a much higher position, now I have to roll on an unstable surface. So you can kind of see the ball has a lot of give to it, and the less air it has, it's going to be harder too. So this is a little bit more challenging than the last one we just showed you. Again, because this is such a good option for those who don't have the Nordic setup, you can really challenge us even further by doing single leg. So whether it's the slider or the physio ball, you go up on two, lift one up, and you can do the same thing here. It's a lot more challenging, but it comes closer to meeting the demands of the Nordic. And obviously you'd want to switch sides and do your rep range on the other side as well. All right guys, so there you go. Not only did we work on the Nordic, we worked on a lot of prerequisites and skills that will help you get to the Nordic. But don't let this be a deterrent. I know this exercise is extremely difficult. Even if you don't ever get to be able to do one Nordic curl, working up to it is going to be extremely valuable for your injury prevention, performance, etc. So guys, I hope you rise up to the challenge and start the journey into performing your first Nordic hamstring curl today. Let's get it.